Internet Society. I am Director Internet Development. I am joined today for this lightning talk by Dr. Dawit Bekele and Verengai Mabika. Maybe Dawit, you can start with your introduction.
Thank you, Kevin. I am Dawit Bekele. I am Regional Vice President for Africa for Internet Society, and I'm very happy to be at this session. I would like to start by saying a few words about Internet Society and then about the project. So Internet Society is a global non-profit organization which works for an open, globally connected, secure, and trustworthy Internet for everyone. It does that with its 136 chapters and special interest groups. It's more than 96,000 individual members and close to 100 organizational members around the world that share its vision and mission. But it also works with partners since it believes that such an important goal cannot be reached just with our community. As the Internet Society, our works are organized into two broad categories called growing the Internet and strengthening the Internet. Within those two categories, there are 8 projects. One of the projects is measuring the Internet, which aims at providing critical information about the Internet that helps any decision maker make the right decision when it works around this issue. In Africa, we focus on measuring the resilience of the Internet. This is because we realized that in Africa, Internet access has improved considerably over the last 2 decades, but there is a major problem, which is reliability. And in order to improve reliability, we need a resilient Internet. Therefore, we want to help governments, regulators, operators, and others who work on Internet resilience to get correct information so that they are impactful in their work. We are very happy that we have many partners who joined this effort. In particular, we are very honored to have African Telecommunications Union, with whom we signed an MOU in October in Bucharest as our partner in this project. We are also very happy to have Afrinic, with whom we have a long-standing relationship and with a partner in this project. This project is a true spirit of the multi-stakeholder approach that is promoted by the IGF, and I believe that we are going to prove that by the presentation that will follow. I think Kevin will present about the project next to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dawit. Perhaps before I go into my presentation, Verengai, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Kevin, and greetings, everyone. My name is Verengai Mabika, and I'm Senior Policy Advisor for Africa, and very glad to be joining this session today. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Verengai. So I will start with the presentation. As you've heard, we collaborated with Afrinic to work on a project that we call Measuring Internet Resilience in Africa, which had 2 main goals. The first one was to determine the levels of internet resilience in African countries. We wanted to do that in a scalable manner so that we can cover all the countries in Africa. We wanted initially to start measuring certain metrics and hopefully build on that later on. And we wanted to aggregate all this information on the country. So all the measurement information that we felt was important in determining the internet resilience of a country, we wanted to aggregate all of them and not really measure them ourselves. We wanted to use as much data that was available as possible. The second goal was to present this data or these measurements in an easy to use or easy to understand fashion. So whether you're a policymaker or a technical engineer or an internet user, we wanted to present this information as simply as possible. So we built what we call the Internet Resilience Index, or IRI as we call it, which is an indicator of a country's internet performance. So this is a yardstick which we can use to compare the experience or the internet resilience of different countries after collecting all those data and aggregating all that data. We worked with several partners here to help us with the thinking approach of the methodology, how to actually carry out these measurements and how to come up with this index score. This was, of course, ourselves, ISOC and Afinic, but also Simula, Carnegie Mellon, and University of Cape Town. If you go to the website link that you see there, pulse.internetsociety.org, you will see our white paper where we capture our thoughts and our approach on how we came up with the Internet Resilience Index and how we wanted to carry out the measurements. So we categorized the measurement data into 4 key pillars. So these were the 4 main categories that we felt were important in determining how resilient the internet connectivity in a country was. The first one is infrastructure. The way to think of this is the physical infrastructure behind making an internet connection available. So these are things like power provision, submarine cable or terrestrial cables, mobile connectivity, internet exchange points, and so on. So think of these as the sort of tangible infrastructure you need to provide internet. And then the second one there was the performance of the internet service providers there. We looked at fixed networks, how good is the uplink and downlink speed, and also mobile networks, how good is the uplink and downlink speed for users in that country. The third one was enabling technologies. So we felt here that it's important to also look at adoption of key technologies like IPv6, DNS, routing hygiene. How well is the routing being done in country? Because that has a significant impact on how well the internet experience for a user is. If an ISP is not doing a good job in routing security, that impacts the resilience. And then finally, we looked at the local ecosystem as the 4th pillar. And here we consider the market readiness, how competitive is the market. If a market has several internet service providers, that could be an indicator that there is more competition and therefore better internet service for the citizens in the country. More competition means lower prices and better quality of service. So we aggregated a lot of data from several sources, just to mention a few: UCLA, United Nations, ITU, CyberGreen, among several others, which you can see on our Pulse website. And we broke them down into different weights so that we could sort of have an even way to understand the connectivity in these countries. So under the 4 key pillars that I mentioned earlier, infrastructure, performance, enabling tech, and local ecosystem, within those there are what we call dimensions, and then within those dimensions are the different data sources we used. And then we came up with this weighting score so that we could then feed this and come up with a rounded score for a country and say, this is the internet resilience of the country because these are the scores they got in the different metrics, and these are the weights according to how we've calculated the index. So if you go to the Pulse website, you'll see data presented there. It's viewable according to the countries in Africa. You can also see them regionally. So if you want to see Southern Africa or East Africa, you can also play around with the view there of the data. And as per the results there that you'll see, the highest performing country was South Africa because they have a very competitive market, several internet exchange points, several submarine cables, cross-border cables. And then the lowest performing was Eritrea because of not a lot of infrastructure investment and not a competitive market. We also tested a prototype active measurement infrastructure just to see if we wanted to carry out our own measurements and increase the richness of the data we have, how that works. So we did pilot active measurements. We deployed Raspberry Pis in about 10 countries just to gain experience with how can we carry out active measurements if we wanted to do that in the future, and then add those data sets as part of the calculations into the index. So the pilot went quite well, and we're happy with the results, and we're looking for partners we can work with to expand that. So upcoming plans in the coming year is we want to build an interactive dashboard. Our dashboard right now is static. We would like to make it a bit more interactive. We're also seeking partners to expand the index to other regions. We are working with the University of West Indies to do some work in the Caribbean region. As Dr. Dawit mentioned, we are working with ATU to develop some framework documents that we will mention here briefly as well. And we are seeking more partners to improve the active measurement prototype that we've developed. And all this is also being documented on our Pulse dashboard. So at this point, we'd like to now shift and talk about the work we're going to be doing with the ATU starting next year, which is to build framework documents around the work we've done on internet resilience. I'll put these links on the chat for those who'd like to read more about the work, and also these will be available. You can reach us on email. But right now, we'll just shift to now talking about how this work will evolve in the coming months to increase the outreach, and also how we intend to work with the framework document. So for this year, I'll invite Verengai to speak more on the framework documents.
Thank you, Kevin, for that presentation. And yeah, certainly I'll just pick on the mostly on the policy-related work that this project is going to address. So the partnerships that Kevin and Dawit mentioned, the African Telecommunications Union and AFRINIC, but most importantly, you notice that the African Telecommunications Union, which is mostly a membership organization of regulators and governments, are equally interested and very much interested in building resilience of the internet in their different countries. And this work is coming as a priority actually for quite a number of countries. So moving into 2023, we are, as part of this work, we are also going to be developing some policy documents. I'm going to describe the two policy documents that we are going to be working on. In fact, we have already started working some work on this with our partner, African Telecommunications Union. So while a number of our regulators are really interested in this work, they are quite seeking some guidance on how to develop a robust policy framework for measurements and for measurement, and also for building resilience of their internet. So this work will focus primarily on developing a policy framework document that will consist of policies that will help countries to improve their internet resilience at national level, and also bring that interaction between the private players and also the government players and other non-governmental players that may be providing those services in the country. So the idea of this policy document is that once we have a regional policy framework, countries or member states can actually use this document to localize these policy documents so that they do have a very clear roadmap on what they can do to build a resilient internet in their countries. And of course, we are also looking at these policy documents as live or living documents that can also adapt to new technologies or even future demand for broadband services in different countries. So this will be more like a recommendation or a guiding document that we believe member states will be able to use. In addition to that, we are also going to be focusing on a technical document or a technical framework document on building internet resilience in Africa. And again, this document will sort of describe the technical infrastructure that is required to carry out internet resilient measurement and maintain an active measurement infrastructure in countries. You may remember Kevin mentioning in his presentation some of the key indicators that we are going to be tracking. I think he mentioned 4. So firstly, the infrastructure. So things like the enabling infrastructure, mobile connectivity and things like that. The second indicator is around performance. And this is a very important indicator for quality of measuring quality of service and things like that. And the other indicators also are around enabling technologies and security. So DNS ecosystem and the routing security of the network. Again, the technical document will be able to lay out the required infrastructure or things that you need for your network to be able to measure those things. And lastly, of course, local ecosystem and market readiness. So the expectation here is that the technical document could be used by either the regulators as well as all the service providers in the country. And what is essentially important in this case is that we want to be able to plan for the availability of quantitative and qualitative data, because the primary source for this project is actually the data. Using this data, we should be able to make very informed decisions and also improve on the services that we are providing to our communities. So things like quality of service, including, of course, speed. I think this is one key aspect that has been mentioned by a number of countries, reachability, latence, as well as, adoption of IPv6 and DNSSEC. So essentially, this is what the policy work is going to look like. And I would like to say also, if there are policy makers listening to or joining in this call, and you are particularly from Africa and interested in becoming part of this project, please reach out to us or to our partners. Our partner, African Telecommunications Union, is going to be also reaching to quite a number of some of the policymakers in your countries and regulators to make sure that you are not left behind, and so that we continue building the internet resilience in our region in Africa. So let me pause there and back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Verengai, for that breakdown on the framework documents that we are working on, which we're hoping to conclude in the coming year. And these will be on the, as Verengai mentioned, on the policy and also on the technical. So I'm not seeing any questions on the chat. Mark, I don't know if there are any questions on your side. And also,
thanks, Kevin. I'm just looking around the room for raised hands. I see one. Please introduce yourself and then for the question. We've got a few minutes, not long. Keep it short.
Yes, my question is about the investments in infrastructure required to ensure resilience. I know that the Internet Society has promoted the Internet exchange points and all that, but is what it's doing enough? And is it a policy to shy away from required investments that ensure stability, resilience, and so on? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. I'll start, and also if Dawit, Verengai, you'd like to add, that's welcome also. So in terms of the infrastructures that facilitate the internet or improve internet resilience, internet exchange points are one of the more critical ones, and we have done a lot of work, especially in the African region, to promote the establishment of internet exchange points and where the exchange points to strengthen them. And this has included both training of staff and also where necessary supporting equipment, providing routers and so on to facilitate the establishment of internet exchange points. Are internet exchange points the only infrastructure needed to improve the connectivity in a country or improve the resilience? The answer is no. What we are hoping to achieve, especially with these framework documents, is to allow those who are in decision-making process to make an informed decision on what they need to do in their countries to improve the resilience. So the information that you'll find, for example, if you go to the Pulse dashboard, you'll see countries scoring very highly in some in some metrics and then very low in some metrics. And why we're doing that, why we're showing that in that manner, is to show the regulators, the policymakers, even the network operators and infrastructure providers that in this area, in your country, these are the areas you need to strengthen in order to improve the resilience. So we believe you cannot improve something without measuring it. And that's why we've gone actively to try and carry out these measurements, present this information in a very easy to understand manner. So when you go to the Pulse dashboard, whether you're a policymaker, you'll see a very simple to understand graph that says, this is how you're scoring on infrastructure for your country. This is how you're scoring on performance. This is how you're scoring on security. This is how you're scoring on market readiness. And we're hoping that will then, inspire conversations and, allow those who need to make informed decisions that this is where we need to improve. Dawit,
Kevin?
Yeah.
Kevin, sorry to interrupt. We're running out of time, and we've got one question in the room. Can we go to that now?
Okay, that's fine.
Is that right? Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Hi, it's Chris Buckridge here from RIPE NCC. I noticed RIPE Atlas is not listed there, although I'm sure there's a possibility to use it a bit as well. But one point that I come from that is that RIPE Atlas, we're aware, doesn't have a huge amount of coverage in Africa. And I was wondering if you found that there was a challenge in getting the measurement infrastructure, or was there a sort of a need for more measurement infrastructure in place to really make this work robust and easy, or have you found it okay in that sense?
Yeah. Okay. So for RIPE, actually, what I didn't manage to get into the details of it, but we had looked at the RIPE Atlas, very good infrastructure. For the prototype measurement infrastructure that I mentioned, we're actually trying to have a device that can allow both throughput tests, uplink, downlink speeds, and also a software RIPE Atlas probe. So we are trying actually to use RIPE. The main reason we are experimenting with the prototype measurement platform is that from our analysis, we felt there are not enough active measurement locations in Africa. So it was very challenging to get live information of what's going on in a country. So that's why we experimented with a prototype. But our approach is not to recreate what is there. We're definitely looking at RIPE. We've even been in touch with a number of people from RIPE. And it is something we want to incorporate as some of the DNS measurements we want to carry out. So I think I'd like to talk to you maybe after this. Maybe Mark can share my email with you, then we can carry on this conversation.
Kevin, I think we can squeeze in one last question
Sure.
before we close.
Sure.
Please introduce yourself and then.
Hello, good morning. I'm Pujani from Internet Society Sri Lanka Chapter President. It's a very valuable presentation. So Internet Society, so Sri Lanka also facing these days huge economic problem, and so Sri Lanka also the same problem, critical infrastructure problem issue. So we conducted many programs for youth as a workshop of how to become an entrepreneur using internet and school programs. Because the most of time they are facing issue of infrastructure problem, so they can't continue their work, this critical problem of Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Okay, not sure what the question is there, but if it's in regards to perhaps how these measurements that we have shown could help other regions, we are looking to explore or expand these measurements to other regions. We've just carried out the measurements in Africa, but we are doing a pilot in the University of West Indies for the Caribbean to carry out similar measurements there. And as part of the plans for 2023, we want to expand these measurements to globally. So it may be by some point next year, it will be very possible for you to view this information on Sri Lanka on the dashboard that we have, and it will show the areas of improvement that because understand in any country what are the areas of improvement, and then action can be taken. So I hope I've answered that question, but please take my email. I'd like more information.
Okay, Kevin, I think we have to close the session now, the talk. So thanks to everybody in the room who participated, and thanks for coming so early, and contributing with very interesting questions. So I hand back to you, Kevin, to close it formally. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to all the attendees. Dawit, Verengai, any final thoughts you'd like to share briefly before you end up?
Not from me, maybe Dawit.
No, just thank you for all who came to our session. This is a very important project for Africa, and we hope that you will contribute to it. We are open to any contribution from the private sector, from regulators, etc. So we look forward to work with all of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawit. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the IGF. Back to you now, Mark.